Do you want to make money flying mapping missions with your DJI? Let AirShot Live and Drone Pilots for Hire show you how. Hello, welcome to Drone Pilots for Hire. This is Sean Hanrahan with AirShot Live. Today I'll be sharing with you the how-tos on drone mapping using DJI Ground Station Pro, DJI Mavic Pro, Mavic Pro 2, Inspire 1, and Inspire 2. By the end of this video, you should understand how to perform a successful mapping mission using DJI Ground Station Pro. We'll go over the details on what you need for the correct hardware configuration, what you'll need for the software, what type of safety plan you should have in place, and a mission objective. I believe if you're watching this video, we've got a lot in common. I know when I was a kid, I enjoyed remote control cars. I loved to play with remote control boats, remote control airplanes. Well, as you can probably imagine, when drones became a reality for me in my professional life, I was like a kid in the candy store. I began using drones about 4 or 5 years ago when I was doing commercial roofing. I quit doing commercial roofing and then started a company. And when I first started, I was basically just doing inspections and photographs and doing some missions for commercial real estate. I shortly realized that I wanted to expand my horizons, and I started inquiring and searching for more information on how the drone can be a successful tool for me and for my clients. One of those ways was mapping. Mapping is an effective way to take a lot of pictures, stitch them together, and have a very high resolution image that you can zoom in to very finite locations on the map. I quickly realized the importance of mapping and how it could benefit me and benefit my clients. So my research led me in a lot of different directions. I found myself trying different products like Drone Deploy, and found myself trying products like Pix 4D. And these products are great. They're excellent products. However, at the time, two and a half years ago, it was a little bit out of my price range. So I was looking for another solution. And when I found Ground Station Pro, I was sold immediately because it was a DJI product, which I've been very happy with as far as software and hardware. And it was easy to use. And I could pretty much do exactly what I wanted to do with it. Drone Pilots for Hire is a brand new YouTube station, and we could use all the subscribers that we can get. If you do like this video, please hit the like button. If you're interested in seeing more videos, subscribe now. And if you do have comments and you don't like it, or you have questions, please feel free to add some comments and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Send some comments, ask some questions. I can get to know you a little bit better. Hopefully you know me a little bit better. Now let's go ahead and get to the PC. All right, let's go ahead and get started with software. The DJI Ground Station Pro is completely free. It does, however, require it be ran on an iOS device. So if you are an Android user, you would need to use an iOS device in order to use this software. A couple of things I'd like to recap on. The software works on several different platforms. I know that it works on the DJI Mavic Pro and the Inspire series only because I've used both of those. However, it is my understanding that it also works on the Phantom 4, Phantom 4 II, possibly the Phantom 3, and also the Matrice series. So this is a mapping software that as your business grows and your fleet grows, you can continue to use on several different platforms that DJI provides. So in order to download the software, simply go to DJI.com, go to the search engine, and type in Ground Station Pro. Now, once you're there, you scroll down, and you will see Ground Station Pro. You can click directly into the downloads, and you can download it directly on your device, or you can go in and do a little bit more research. There's more downloads, FAQs, additional services. This is a great overview of the product, showing its capabilities, its functionality, how it works. I highly recommend going out and just taking a look at Ground Station Pro on DJI.com to get a little bit more information about the product and how it works and how it will fit into what you want to accomplish with the software. I know this can be disappointing news for Android users. However, I also was an Android user and made the switch, bought an iPad mini, and now that's all I fly with. I just find that the visual content, the output on the iPad mini is a lot more useful and a lot more visually, aesthetically pleasing than the Android device. So I have put together a couple of links to kind of walk you through what you'll need if you are transitioning from an Android device into using the iOS device. I would recommend looking at the iPad mini. You can go out to Amazon.com and type in iPad mini, and you'll see they've got different versions. So I use the iPad mini 5th gen. I believe the 4th gen works, and I know the 6th gen works as well. You can see that the 5th gen refurb is about $250, and you can get that with a 128 gigabyte hard drive, which is a phenomenal deal. I would highly recommend looking at the extended or expanded memory. It does come in handy only because the iOS devices don't have the ability to expand the memory with SD cards. In addition, you will also need a Mini Air Pro foldable aluminum iPad tablet mount. And what that is basically is a holder that the tablet fits into, because it doesn't physically fit into the remote control that's standard with the Mavic Pro and Mavic Pro 2. Keep in mind, for Phantom and Inspire and Matrice users, this hardware is not necessary. Now, in addition, you will also need a micro USB to iPhone iOS cable. 6 inches should be sufficient. You may want to go a little bit longer, so you do have some wiggle room. So in and out the door, you're looking at starting at about a $300 hardware investment that, in my opinion, is an upgrade and you can use on all of your devices.
Hey, let's go over our safety plan. So your safety plan should be designed by you. You can use a format similar to mine. What I like to do is have the safety plan and have my mission objectives all in a location that I can look at from several devices. Since I do use Androids, I use iPad, iOS, I use a PC, I've got a lot of different devices, so accessing that safety plan is very important from different locations. So I use Google Keep. So if I go into Google Keep and I go in here, I can see I've got my safety plan. I go ahead and open my safety plan. What I like to do before the mission is jump out on Google Maps and Google Earth and get a layout of where I'm going to be flying. And then I go to Kitty Hawk, which is a FAA endorsed website that basically allows you to see whether or not the area that you're flying in is in controlled airspace. So I'm going to log on to the Aloft website and I'm going to load in the location, and once that location is loaded up, I'm going to check to make sure that I'm not going to be flying in controlled airspace. If I am, I either apply for a LANC authorization, or the mission may have to wait until a manual authorization through the FAA is performed. The very next thing I do is I research the area with Google Maps and Google Earth. This gives me a general overview of what I'm looking at as far as general obstructions, potential hazards, and that type of thing. Once I'm on site, I visually inspect the entire area. So I will drive around the property. I will go through the area that the flight plan is going to be, and visually inspect to see if there are any potential areas of hazards or potential safety issues. Once I identify obstructions on the ground and on the air, then I also identify obstructions and potential hazards where people may be gathering, traveling. An example would be an exit or an entrance to a building, maybe an area where people are eating their lunch outside. Next, I will notify the client and other people of the mission objectives. So a general overview of where I'd be flying and what I would like as far as safety measures for pedestrians and people gathering in specific locations. The next step is I will do a test flight, and that test flight I will use the Go 4 app for using my Mavic Pro, or I will use the Go app, and I will fly the perimeter of the mission area. I will identify any type of potential aerial obstructions, tree elevations, if there are any telephone wires or cell towers. This is where I will gather that information and be able to adjust the mission prior to flying the mission. The next step is I will ask the client to limit pedestrian access to specific potential hazardous areas. In other words, if there is a lot of foot traffic going in and out, I'd like to have that foot traffic stop during the mission. It's usually a brief time, 5 to 10 minutes, but having them interact with their customers and their employees to keep them safe is a very crucial step as well. So next, I will prepare for the unexpected. And the way to do that is prepare for the mission to have some sort of failure. And the most important thing is to make sure that you've got multiple landing locations in mind before you fly. In other words, you may launch from a specific area and somebody may go and stand in that area, a car may park in that area, whatever it may be, and you may have to alter your return to home and land the drone in a different location. So be prepared for that. Next, go ahead and begin the mission. Once the mission begins, always make sure that you've got the drone in line of sight. I can't stress enough how important it is to always have the drone within visual line of sight. If something does happen, if there's a communication failure, if there's a hardware failure, if there becomes strong winds and gusty winds, whatever it might be, you have to be prepared to manually take over the drone and land it safely away from people and property. Go ahead and fly a safe mission. Moving forward with our mission objectives. Much like the safety plan, I like to have the mission objective checklist available to me on several different devices. So again, I use Google Keep. Opening up our Google Keep, I'm going to navigate to our mission objectives. Let's begin with the first checkbox. We've got the safety plan already developed. We went over the details of the safety plan, so we won't go into any more detail. Next, we also have a flight checklist has been performed. The flight checklist is an essential part of just about every mission, whether it's a mapping mission or a commercial real estate mission. You're going to want to perform a flight checklist. And the reason being is that you want to make sure that you have all your hardware and all your hardware is functioning properly. Next, I always put this in the mission objective as well, even though we've already went over it in the safety plan, is make sure the airspace has been confirmed, and if that there are any authorizations, they've been submitted and accepted. So what makes the mapping mission a little bit unique is going to be the drone mapping section. In the drone mapping section, there's a few details that I like to include. I like to know about how much acreage we're going to be covering and what type of flight pattern we'll be using, whether it's a cross stitch or standard stitch. There are some different options in the software which we'll go over when we get to the setup of the Ground Station Pro. Those options are 3D point of interest, photo map, 3D mapping, virtual fence, and waypoint routes. That's just the type of flight that the drone performed in the automated process. Next, I also like to put in the date and time and then have the client contact information available to me. So if I do have any objections during my visual inspection, I'm able to refer back to the client and give them a call if I need to. So that's it for our mission objectives. Pretty easy. Let's go ahead and move forward on getting the Ground Station Pro set up for our mapping mission. Remember, before you fly, you always want to make sure that you're flying in uncontrolled airspace. And the best way to do that is using an app called Aloft. First things first, let's get the bird up in the air and see if there's any obstructions that we might run into before we begin the mapping mission. So we went ahead and we put the bird in the air and we got a bird's eye view of what we were looking at. There weren't any visible obstructions at about 125 feet and above, so I think we're safe to go. We are doing excellent moving forward with our Ground Station Pro and DJI how-to video. I would like to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to Drone Pilots for Hire. And if you do like the video, hit the like button. And if you would like some more information or if there are something you'd like to share with us, please enter that into the comments. Let's go ahead and move forward with getting Ground Station Pro set up for our sample mission. So I'm assuming that we've already installed Ground Station Pro onto our iOS device. Once we've done that, go ahead and open up Ground Station Pro. I'd like to begin with a basic disclaimer. Although I've used Ground Station Pro hundreds of times in commercial applications, I am by no means the ultimate authority or an absolute expert on the functionality and features of Ground Station Pro. I've used Ground Station Pro in commercial applications, flying professionally for missions and clients. However, this is a very feature-rich software that can be used by an individual for hobby purposes all the way to a company that needs enterprise functionality. So if you are an expert in Ground Station Pro and you're watching this video, I would love and encourage you to put in the comments that you are an expert, and perhaps we could do a interview of some sort or have a live broadcast with you as a guest host. Moving forward. So as I said before, have used this application in a commercial capacity where I have done drone mapping missions for clients. And today we will be creating a sample mission that will walk you through some of the basic functionality of setting up the Ground Station Pro. So what I'm going to do initially is just give you a broad overview as far as the setup and getting logged into an account, All of those features and functions are pretty basic. I would recommend if you don't have a DJI account, set one up now. Use it to log in for your different devices, whether or not you've got one drone or you've got 50 drones. Use that DJI account so you can manage and maintain your logs and flight logs in a cloud application. That being said, assuming that we've already gotten set up and we've logged into our account, let's move forward with setting up our sample mission. Ground Station Pro is a feature-rich software application. We could spend an hour doing a tutorial on all the features involved in Ground Station Pro. Today, we're just going to focus on setting up a basic mapping mission and giving a general overview of the software. If you would like to have a more detailed tutorial on Ground Station Pro, please enter that request into the comments, and if I have enough requests, I will certainly put together a complete tutorial. So we'll go ahead and go to My Missions, and we are going to hit the plus button to start a new mission. In this scenario, we have options to go with a photo map, virtual fence, 3D map point of interest, and a waypoint route. Today we're going to go with the photo map, and we are going to draw that photo map on the screen of the iPad rather than using the drone to create the map. As this example is going to move forward, I think I'm going to select a church very close to the proximity of where I'm at. And you can see all you need to do is touch the dots and you can move the orientation of the perimeter by holding down and sliding the dots to a different location. Now that we have the perimeter set for our location, we could zoom in a little closer if we'd like to get a little bit more detail. Now, if we want to name the mission, type a new mission name. So we'll call this Mission Sample. All you do is go to the right and click on the pen, and then that will move the cursor over. We can see that the pattern that the drone will be flying is indicated by the green lines within the blue zone of the mission perimeter. The details from the mission area are then shown in the section just below the mission name. It shows that we have 34 waypoints and the total amount of feet that the drone will be traveling and how many lines there are. The total amount of coverage for this particular mission is about 3.5 acres. And right where it says camera mode is where we can select which camera we'll be using, whether it's going to be a DJI Mavic Pro, whether it's going to be a Phantom, whether it is a Phantom 4, multispectral, Mavic, Mavic Pro, Mavic 2, Mavic 2 Enterprise. So you can see all of the different platforms that this software application runs with. And this indicates that you certainly can use the Phantom 3 Standard, Advanced, Professional, and 4K as well. For our mission, we're going to be setting up the Mavic Pro, so we'll leave it there. Now, it does change the flight pattern slightly by the sensor that you're using. So there are preset parameters in there. So it is important that you make sure that you select the correct camera when you're getting ready to fly a mission. This shooting angle basically changes the direction that the drone will be traveling. So if you're going parallel with the path, that means the drone will be traveling along the path. If you're going perpendicular, it'll be traveling perpendicular to the path. Typically, course aligned is the direction I choose to have the drone traveling, only because the sensors are located in the front of the DJI Mavic Pro. Next, we have the capture mode. So this mode is the mode that you can use to have the drone either capture the pictures in a time interval, a distance interval, or if you really want to have clear and concise photographs that have very limited blur, you can choose hover and capture at point. If you choose hover and capture at point, it slows the mission down drastically. So if you would be flying a 7-minute mission, it probably is going to double or triple the amount of time that it takes to fly that mission. I've found that capturing at equal distance is just as good as hover and capture. The only time I would recommend using hover and capture is if you're in a scenario where there are heavy winds. You've got conditions that are favorable for flight. I would recommend using either the equal time interval or using the capture at equal distance interval. Next we have the flight course mode. So you can use either scan or inside mode. The standard for the flights that I'm using are typically the inside mode. We can adjust the speed. This does automatically set the speed, but if you do want to speed up the mission or if you want to slow the mission down, you have the ability to do that. Here is where you are going to set the elevation. All of the precautions that we did prior to putting the drone in the air, as far as making sure there were no obstructions and checking where telephone lines were and if there are cell towers. I can't stress enough how important it is to establish a safe altitude for the mission to be executed. So you can either use the scroll bar, which I find difficult at times because it's hard to get exactly at the altitude that I'm looking for with my finger on the screen. But you can see as I raise the altitude, the fewer lines there are. So the fewer necessity for overlap occurs. And so if I go all the way out to 300 feet, I'm limiting the mission to 12 waypoints. If I zoom all the way into 65 feet, you can see now I've got 62 waypoints. So this is how you are able to capture more detailed images. I typically set my missions at about 125 feet for a standard. The reason being is that 125 feet is a safe altitude around buildings that are 2 or 3 stories high. Over here you can see what the latitude and longitude are. If you do want to jump directly into a location that is away from you and you want to pre-program a mission, this is the way to do it. Go to Google Earth, get the latitude and longitude, and copy and paste the latitude and longitude directly into this section right here. So we went through the basic setup, and now we'll move on to the advanced. In the advanced setup, you can see on the top we have the front overlap ratio, and what that is the amount of overlap that the sensor is going to pick up. Typically what I've found to be the best setting is to have the front and side overlap set at 80 and 80. This gives me enough overlap multi-directionally to have the stitching process be clear and precise. The course angle is the area where I can change what direction I want the drone to fly in. So if I want it north and south, I can set it this direction. And then if I want to set it east and west, I can set it this direction. This is very useful because you are able to run the mission using a north and south pattern. You can also, after you've completed that north and south pattern, simply change the mission to an east and west pattern. And now you have a cross stitch pattern. You can also set the angle patterns to northwest to southeast and vice versa, northeast to southwest. Doing this is going to give you multi-directional photographs. This is the best way for you to capture data for 3D modeling and 3D rendering, or multi-directional stitching patterns. If you have a construction project that you'll be going out weekly and capturing the exact same data so you can put together a week-by-week tutorial, or you can put together a time-lapse or a hyperlapse. You can also keep that same pattern, and if you want to have the area zoomed into specific areas as well, this makes it easy for you not to alter the perimeter. So you have an exact match with your perimeter every time you come back and perform the mission. The end of mission action, I typically have it sent to return to home. In some scenarios where there is heavy tree foliage or there may be heavy traffic, I may have the drone just hover at the end, or I may have the drone land at its landing location, which is indicated as the green dot within the blue perimeter. 9 times out of 10, I will use the return to home function because I try to pick the safest launch location, so when the drone is done with the mission, it can automatically come back to that launch location and I'm not going to have issues. But as I had said before, it is very important to make sure that you have an alternate, because the launch location may become unlandable during the mission. Another area I would like to go over is the information area on the top. So you can see there are 3 dots just above the advanced section. Those 3 dots indicate that you're able to scroll from left to right. So if I scroll over, I can see now how long my mission is going to take. I can see where the batteries are. I can see what the estimated amount of photos we're going to capture are. I can see what the capture distance is or what the interval time is. And it will also display which camera is going to be used.
That does conclude the basic tutorial section of this how-to video on how to use Ground Station Pro and successfully fly mapping missions. Now let's get out and fly the bird.
All right, so we've got the bird in the air and the mission has started. It looks like we have near perfect flight conditions today. Very little wind, under 4 miles per hour. Lighting is absolutely gorgeous, and it is a perfect day to fly a mapping mission. So remember, this is a completely automated process through Ground Station Pro. If there is any type of radio communication interference or the iOS fails and you're not able to see the drone on your screen, it's very important that you always have the drone within visual line of sight. Okay, so we're bringing the bird back in for a landing. That's a take. We got the mapping mission done and we're back to the office. Flight, you may run into some issues. There might be communication issues between the controller and the iOS. There may be some interference. If that does happen, there'll be another video to show you what to do and how to respond. So there we have it. Finishing up the mapping mission, everything went flawlessly. We had no safety issues, no real concerns with obstructions. The main reason being is that we took all the necessary precautions prior to the flight, and we had all the necessary safety systems in place.
It's a